2 jobs back when I was at Garda AT Systems, we'd plug the vehicles in, and we'd see that this vehicle drove 82 miles an hour. And it really did. He hit 82 miles an hour going downhill. So obviously that was horrible and not what we're supposed to do. So that driver, with that evidence, to the union, it's right there. Look what this guy did. We were able to discipline him. Also, sudden deaccelerations, meaning, he had to stand on the brakes before he hit somebody. We were able to then tell that this guy is an accident waiting to happen. And again, counsel him, train him, whatever. So that sort of thing was very useful.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Did you happen to be able to zero in any of the info you were able to get off the transmission, and if that was able to make any interesting inferences?
No, not so much on the transmission, because the Allison will tell you, what sensors aren't working, it's shifting, that kind of thing. That's pretty much, unless the driver's holding it in gear or something, which, most drivers, they just didn't care. You didn't get good driver information out of the Allison side. It was out of the Cummins side where you were actually able to get something. And then on top of that, we started putting systems like drive cam type systems where we could see, right before the accident happened, this is what the guy was doing. Yeah. So that was kind of like after the fact. Well, he already had the accident, but then we had the Cummins information from Insight and, put the whole package together. So for either training, discipline, or termination.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Putting the full picture together is key. I guess going back to the transmission, did it give you anything around torque or anything that was kind of just interesting, or was it more like you're only going to turn to that data if you're looking for some really urgent service needed on the transmission before you really mess up the truck?
Yeah, we used the Allison software strictly for maintenance. If a driver reported, hey, it's been shifting funny, it's sticking in gear, it seemed like it was slipping, we'd plug it in. If we got a transmission light, we'd plug it in right away. And then, we also plugged it in at that echelon of maintenance where we plugged it in for everything. And it would give us codes, and then, we'd either diagnose the codes ourselves or call the local Allison rep and say, hey, what the heck, what's going on with this thing? The Allison people had something that was more detailed than what we had, and they were able to go, again, behind that curtain and tell more information than we were able to pull out and tell us your transmission is about to fail. You need to take this truck out of service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Anything clearly differentiated with Transman? You mentioned it briefly, but I mean, is it fairly comparable as far as a product for the waste and recycling industry as Faster or Dossier? Anything stand out?
Well, all three of those that I mentioned were all equipment management systems, so not specific to the waste industry. Mm-hmm. Because at Republic was a waste fleet, but it had other equipment that wasn't waste trucks, but Faster was a fleet thing. But for the waste industry, the system has to be able to be flexible enough, which all that I've encountered, I guess, we picked the system that is flexible enough where it will come with truck types and mechanical systems and all that kind of stuff. They're kind of prepackaged. You have to be able to go in and personalize it for what your fleet is. So, like in the Faster system, it wasn't really set up for trash trucks, but you were able to go in and create vehicle classes for front loader and then put in for lift cylinders and, that sort of thing. So you'd be able to that information. I'm not aware of equipment management systems that are specific for the waste industry. They may exist, but I didn't encounter them.
Yeah, I haven't seen any either. I guess there just seem to be a few standout tools that the industry seems to have converged on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, to your point, they certainly use the tools for more aspects of their business than just hauling with the yellow iron and various other operations. So
right.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess one final question probably from my end, unless Girish has some others, would just be how would you describe, you did describe implementation challenges quite a bit, but aside from that, do you see major switching costs or barriers to changing systems? I know with these things it's always a painful process, but if there were one shortcoming in Dossier or one shortcoming in Faster or Transman that could kill the thing and actually make you want to upgrade, or on the positive side, if there was something that a system offered that was something that was so appealing you would go through that pain, what would it be?
Well, I think the thing that would kill it, which did kill it, some of the other possibilities when we did the Faster upgrade, was losing all of the previous history that we had accumulated. And Faster was able to pull our previous data and repopulate into our current, although it didn't do 100%, but a lot of it made it. And talking to the other potential providers, they said, gee, I'm sorry, we can't really do that, but starting from day one, you're going to have great info. Well, we're going to have to end up running two systems. We'd have to keep a live system for our archive data for our old stuff because the trucks are still running, and start a new system. So that would be, that was the deal breaker for me. Before we talked about anything else, what about my old data? Sorry, you can't bring it. Okay, see you guys later. So, that would be a deal killer. I guess just picking one thing would be.
Pick three if you'd like.
Okay, I'll pick three. The first one was not necessarily in this order, but the ease of the users to use it. And I don't mean like myself as the fleet manager, but the techs, the clerks, all that kind of stuff. The ease of them to use it and get all the information we want, because the more difficult it was to use, the more shortcuts were taken, and the data would get corrupted pretty quick. So it had to be really easy, flexible for them to use. It had to be mobile, so the data input places weren't tied to a parts counter or something. So it had to be like on a tablet, so they could go out and wander around and go to a truck and put their information in and close work orders. And then the ease of customizing and requesting information for users. Fewer but more powerful canned reports, and then the ability to build reports using different parameters that are already in there, but like a menu, like an a la carte menu, and be able to go in and pick this and pick this, pick this and pick this, and run a report. That the ability to do that is fantastic. So that's kind of like three things.
I might just try to jog your thought process a little bit. I have been under the impression, and maybe you can prove me wrong or liberate me of the assumption, that with the high turnover among techs, especially in waste and recycling, a lot of the time, if a vendor like a Dossier or Transman can provide a really good customer service, help training, help ease those transitions, help ease the learning curve to interact with the system through the training process, that can be a big help? Or did the clerks pretty much cover that problem?
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of turnover in either place, particularly not in a city job. Somebody got in the city job, they weren't going anywhere. And Republic was seen as a